G'day troops, it's Maro here, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Austwick and Tauranga Veterinary Services, which is a dismissal case, and it's a dismissal taking into account a performance issue. Long story short, there's a vet, he's been a vet for a really long time, and for a whole heap of that really long time, apparently he's been a really good vet. Then a new owner takes over the business, and over a period of 2-3 years, it appears that that relationship gets a little bit tender. What looks to be the case is that on 3 separate occasions, the vet effectively makes a mistake with the diagnosis and or the treatment. The employer takes these separate items, collectivizes them, writes a letter that says, look, basically, think you're a great vet, loving you, loving the animals, but it turns out that this might be a pattern, potentially a pattern that even amounts to some form of serious or gross negligence, and as a result of that, this could be a kind of final warning, poor performance, dismissal-like conversation and process. Now, we obviously weren't there, but it's clear there are a couple of meetings, some correspondence gets exchanged, and ultimately, the vet is dismissed. It goes to the authority, and the question is, what actually happens here? What's the appropriate outcome? And frankly, is this a decision you can reasonably make? 2 things to note. First off, that conversation about what's reasonable in the circumstances definitely tells us 2 things. 1, it tells us if you're going to use words like serious or gross negligence, you need to make sure you make that clear from the outset, which the employer didn't. And secondly, you need to make sure you investigate that correctly and properly, which arguably the employer may not have in this case. The second thing we find out is that this tenure, this length of solid service, needs to be seen as against these 3 isolated incidents, which the authority says you can't really piece together. They're all very specific on the facts of the particular occasion, and as a result of that, don't really form a pattern of behaviour. And against years and years of no pattern at all of any sort of real failure, we ultimately have to accept that maybe, just maybe, this isn't as bad as it looks like it should or otherwise could have been described. As a result of that, the authority awards this particular vet a total of approximately $35,000, and the employer is ultimately told, look, this was not the process, this was not an acceptable outcome, and this certainly wasn't the appropriate way to investigate that, all things being considered. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, again it tells us you have to be really open-minded, you have to begin the process with a very clear, open-minded set of criteria for investigation, and you have to genuinely engage in that process before you start coming to conclusions. It is, as always, my great pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for your time. Wish you the best of luck, and we'll see you again soon.